For the record, my name is Kenzie Bach. I'm the District 8 City Councilor, Chair of Boston's City Council's Committee on Ways and Means. I'm joined by my colleague Julia Mejia and Councilor Ed Flynn. I want to remind you that this public hearing is being recorded and broadcast on Comcast 8, RCN 82, Verizon 1964, and streamed at boston.gov/citycounciltv. We ask that everyone silence your cell phones and other devices. We'll be taking public testimony at the end of this hearing and would appreciate it if you would sign in and indicate if you'd like to testify. We ask everyone who testifies to state your name and affiliation and limit your comments to a few minutes to ensure that all comments and questions can be heard. You can also submit written testimony if you're watching this elsewhere by mail or email at ccc.wm@boston.gov. So, today's hearing is on Docket 0246, which is an order authorizing the City of Boston to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority statements of interest for the Accelerated Repair Program for the following schools: Samuel Adams Elementary, Boston Day and Evening Academy, Curtis Guild Elementary, Nathan Hale Elementary, Dr. William W. Henderson Inclusion Upper School, Rafael Hernandez K-8, Higginson Lewis K-8, Patrick Kennedy Elementary, William H. Ohrenberger K-8, James Otis Elementary, and the John Winthrop Elementary School. Our expected speakers today, we've got Brian McLaughlin, Chief of Staff for the Public Facilities Department, Rob Consalvo, Senior Advisor to Boston Public Schools, and Monica Robbins, Chief Engagement Officer for Boston Public Schools. Before I turn to the panel, I just want to read into the record a letter from our colleague, Councilor Lydia Edwards of District 1, who has written to the clerk to inform her, I regret that I am unable to attend the February 11th, 2020 Committee on Ways and Means hearing on Docket 0246 regarding certain accelerated repairs to various schools within my district. I'd like to go on record and say that these repairs to the roof, windows, and boilers are necessary for a healthy learning environment, and I look forward to passing this docket expeditiously through the council. Thank you, Councilor Lydia Edwards, District 1. So just wanted to note the councilor's desire and regret at not being here. So with no further ado, I'd love to start with a presentation from Brian McLaughlin.
Thank you, Councilor. Again, Brian McLaughlin from the Public Facilities Department, here with Monica Roberts and Robert Consalvo from Boston Public Schools. We're here before you on a presentation for the 2020 11 schools that we'd like to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for the Accelerated Repair Program. The Massachusetts School Building Authority is a state authority that oversees funding for public school capital projects in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The MSBA is a reimbursement agency and works with local communities to create affordable, sustainable, and energy efficient schools across Massachusetts. It is funded through 1 cent of the Massachusetts sales tax. The first step in the MSBA process is to submit a statement of interest, and this is what they refer to as their application. The SOI allows districts to inform the MSBA about deficiencies in a particular school that may negatively impact the delivery of that school's educational program. The SOI requires votes of both the school committee and the city council in order to submit. The MSBA offers 2 programs. The core program, which is for large construction projects, new building construction, large addition renovations or large renovation projects. Their second offering is the Accelerated Repair Program, which is restricted to upgrades or replacements to roofs, windows, and boilers of a particular facility. The Accelerated Repair Program is designed to materially extend the useful life of schools that are otherwise capable of supporting the required educational program. ARP focuses on preservation of existing assets by forming energy-efficient upgrades, which will result in direct operational savings for school districts. MSBA was created in 2004 to oversee school construction. It came on board after the School Building Assistance Program was ended. MSBA was created by the act of the legislature. From 2004 to 2014, the city received $5.9 million in reimbursement on 5 projects. Since the time Mayor Walsh took office, he has made it a priority to leverage state funds on school projects with the help of the City Council. Since 2015, The city has completed 18 repair projects. An additional 9 have been approved by the MSBA. 6 of those 9 will go into construction this summer, and 3 are currently in design with an anticipated start of 2021 construction. The 18 completed projects and the 6 going into construction this summer represent $65 million in total project costs, with a reimbursement of upwards of $38.6 million. In addition, the city and the MSBA have collaborated on several core projects that have resulted in an additional $86 million in reimbursement on projects such as the Dearborn STEM Academy and the Boston Arts Academy. That number will likely be going up as we're in design for the new Josiah Quincy Upper School and the Kotter School over in the South End. In total, since 2015, the city has been approved for $124 million in reimbursement from the MSBA. The Accelerated Repair Program has certain requirements in order to submit to the MSBA. The roof and boiler systems must be at least 25 years of age. The window system must be over 30 years of age. Cost of the projects have to be estimated over $250,000. The schools cannot be overcrowded. The scope of the work is limited to just roof, window, and/or boiler work. And the building must be used for educational purposes. It can't be an administrative office or a building that facilities are run out of. In selecting the 11 schools that are before you today, we undertook a similar process that was done in previous years. We reviewed several criteria, including overall condition of the facility, selecting facilities that meet the accelerated repair requirements, and projects that provide an opportunity for the city to maximize our reimbursement on eligible costs from the MSBA. And along with information from the BPS facilities teams, we wanted to make sure the projects that move forward are continually in need of repair and are reaching the end of their useful life. Based on this review, we are requesting the following 11 schools be put forth for the 2020 Accelerated Repair Program. There are 6 window projects at Samuel Adams Elementary School, Boston Day and Evening Academy, Curtis Guild Elementary School, the Nathan Hale Elementary School, the Rafael Hernandez K-8, Higginson Lewis K-8. 4 roof projects at the Henderson Upper School, the Ohrenberger K-8, Otis Elementary School, and Winthrop Elementary School, and 1 boiler project at the Kennedy Elementary School. As I mentioned, in order to submit an SOI, they must be accompanied by the vote of the City Council and School Committee. Hard copy applications to the MSBA are due this Friday, February 14th. School Committee voted last Wednesday, February 5th, on these 11 statements of interest. We're before you today in hopes that this matter will be reported out favorably and a vote of the City Council will take place tomorrow. Thank you for your time. I'm glad to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Great. Thank you so much. Can you just clarify the OI score on this? What's that?
That's the Opportunity Index score for each school. That's a Boston Public School measure for each facility.
I wasn't sure if that
The Opportunity Index is a way to measure need in the schools. We implemented it a few years ago. And what it does is it doesn't measure the need based on where the school is located, but it's a series of metrics that measure the need based on where the students are coming from and that attend that school. So we can get an accurate measure of what is the true need of a particular school, and then certain pieces of funding within BPS are based on the fact of the Opportunity Index score, and really helps us target from an equity lens which schools really have the most need.
And so I didn't see that on the initial list of the process, but that's also factored into the
Yes.
determination process?
My apologies, I should have mentioned that.
Great. And can you speak a little bit to, the consideration of relevant build BPS implications? I mean, obviously, presumably, we're replacing these major systems on buildings that we don't then expect to immediately break into with major construction projects.
Yes, we're looking to invest in schools that will be there. MSBA reimburses on a 20-year life expectancy for these building systems. So in the event that we were to somehow disrupt the investment that MSBA made in a roof, window, or boiler, we'd have to pay back that money that that we would gain that we would be getting in reimbursement. So we're looking to move forward with schools that will continue to be in the Boston Public Schools inventory.
Right, so, and those buildings also need to continue to be used for educational purposes for that
Correct.
20-year life?
Yes.
And just,
At least,
Counselor,
yes.
just on that point, just for the public's clarity, just to remind folks that we are moving from a district that has sometimes up to 22 grade configurations to a district that is K through 6, 7 through 12, K through 8, 9 through 12, with some K-5s in buildings that don't have the physical capacity to expand. So just so folks is understanding the buildings that you see on this list, we're moving to a district that is consolidated with less transitions for folks, which we've heard loud and clear in the engagement process from parents.
Great, thank you. I know that did either of you have a presentation you wanted to present, or should we just, all right, we'll continue with questions. I know one of my colleagues has to leave, so I'll go to Councilor Mejia.
So yes, thank you so much for the presentation. Just in terms of what the process is, if you could tell me a little bit about how do you go about identifying the vendors who are going to work on these projects? Where is the pool of resumes and opportunities for folks, specifically minority business owners?
Sure.
Of such.
So the architects and owners project managers are, the MSBA provides those to the city of Boston. It's a random, they actually pick out of a hat. All the districts that submit statements of interest. So they do their own procurement for the owners project managers and the designers for these projects. And then they pair them with all the districts that submit for the accelerated repair program. Then we will publicly procure the actual contractors that will perform the work. And we work with we advertise in Central Register, Boston Globe, Boston Herald, and with all the required places where we need to put these advertisements.
Great, thank you. And in terms of the parent school site councils, do parents have an idea? Do they get involved in understanding what repairs are going to happen in their schools? Is there a process that happens on the school site council level?
I'm not sure that they've been involved to date in terms of upgrading these building systems, but as we move forward, these projects won't likely go into construction until 2022, so there'll be conversations with those schools that they will likely be seeing construction during the summer months of 2022, well in advance of any project moving forward into construction.
Do you want to say something, Monica?
So, school site councils are generally, that comes up in the discussion at the school site council table and discussion with the school leader. So as they're nearing that, and as school leaders have been, as we've confirmed that the work is actually going to take place for the school leader, they can then launch those conversations. But as they get closer to the work actually being done, they are then articulating what families and staff should expect.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just one point I'd like to make is that submission of these 11 doesn't guarantee that they will move forward in construction. There's a period of review from the MSBA that will take place through the spring into the summer. So after the summer, we'd likely know which projects would be moving forward into the MSBA process. And I think that's the time where we engage these schools to let them know that something will be coming in the future.
And this may not fit in this scope of work, but I'm just curious about, I've heard from different parents in different schools that there's some issues around with lead in some of our, in the water. And if that's also a concern and that has to do with facilities, is that a different pool of money that gets addressed? Is that, Rob, can you talk to me?
Yeah, I think so. The issue of lead in the drinking water is an issue that the district has taken very seriously. So all of our schools have access to safe, clean drinking water now. Some of our schools have been retrofitted, and other schools have bottled water. In either of those scenarios, we still make the commitment to every single school and family, and I'm a Boston Public School parent, that all of our schools have access to safe, clean drinking water. In fact, the efforts of the district are so extensive around this issue. As we bring schools online, we've been before school committee to update school committee regularly on the process of bringing more schools online. And I know the district just received an award for the work they're doing around that. So there have been fountains that have been shut off. those schools would have bottled water or other water machines. But we do have a program where we are continuing to bring schools online, and then we do guarantee that all of our schools, all 125, have access to safe, clean drinking water.
Thank you. And one last question is, it seems like this is just for roofs, windows, so I'm just wondering what happens with schools that have walls that are crumbling and floors that are, and toilets that are not working. Just wondering where those priorities fall under.
Sure. So this is just the group of schools that we'd be looking to work with the MSBA on. There's the other capital requests that go independent of MSBA collaboration that BPS, PFD, and the Office of Budget Management are working on to move forward other projects that don't fit into the criteria for the MSBA program.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
And I would just only add to that, in the budget presentation you had yesterday, and that will be back before you in April, the superintendent has really committed funding, and the mayor, to address sort of the capital issues in our schools, and things like 25 new custodians, which are going to have a major impact on making sure schools are safe and clean and can be addressing these issues.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Councilor Flynn? Oh, and I just want to note that we've been joined by Councilor Matt O'Malley from District 6.
Thank you, Councilor Bork, and thank you to the panelists for your work on this important program. I look forward to voting in favor of it. It's an excellent program. It helps so many schools. It helps so many students as well, obviously. I know the McKinley School is one of 3 that are already in design. Can you give me a quick update on the McKinley School? What are we doing? And you know, what type of repairs are we making with the McKinley on this project?
Sure. The McKinley is going to be receiving a roof project that's currently in design, and we're looking to bid that for construction in 2021. So the 3 projects that move forward, that we submitted 6 projects last year to the MSBA. 3 of those were approved to move forward, one of those being the McKinley. MSBA assigned the OPM and architect to us in the late fall of 2019. Unfortunately, the timing didn't work out to get that project in bid for summer construction 2020, so we're going to move that to summer of 2021 construction.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to visit the McKinley several weeks ago. I met with the principal and teachers and students, and I think they're doing a great job at that school, but I know that roof will definitely help. It's desperately needed. So I want to say thank you on that regard. I had the opportunity to visit the Kotter School recently, several weeks ago, and met with the principal and met with some of the parents and obviously the students as well. And that's probably one of the most highly specialized schools in New England, helping students at risk with physical and medical challenges. I know you mentioned the Kotter in your presentation. What's the latest on what we're doing to help the Kotter School?
Sure. So that's another project we're collaborating with the MSBA on. We just finished consultant selection. We're bringing on the architect. Actually, the Public Facilities Commission will be voting tomorrow to approve their design fee for the project, and we'll be kicking off design probably within the month. Within the next 2 or 3 months, we'll have a better idea of what the schedule will be moving forward. Once the owner's project manager, the team from BPS and PFD are able to sit down and map out the forward progress of that project.
Excellent. The Kotter School is not in my district, but I love to visit the school often because the teachers and the principal are doing a tremendous job working with the students. So it's great to see that they're getting some support. So we appreciate that. And then my final question is to Rob. Rob, can you talk a little about, I'm just following up on Council Mejia's question, but can you talk a little about the bottled water? Is it bottled water, or is it the tap water that we have with the cups? You know, how did the students access that type of bottled water?
Yep, I think, and Monica, you can weigh in if you need to as well. We work closely with the school leaders on that. We make sure the students have access. Schools do have bottled water with cups. PJ Praskinis, who I know you and I have worked closely with on a number of issues, he and his custodial team make sure that all of the water filling stations have full water, the cups that are necessary. They're constantly replacing it as needed based on the usage in the school. PJ and his team have worked on a plan to make sure that kids always, and staff always have access to safe, clean drinking water. We work with our school leaders on that. We also work as part of the team to consistently replace and bring new schools online. And what I'll do is I'll get you, Counselor, to all the councils here today, a copy of our most recent testimony before the school committee with that deck, which goes into depth all of the efforts that have been undertaken to bring schools online, how many have been brought online, what are the resources we dedicate to that, as well as highlights some of the great work that we've been recognized most recently by the state for the work in this area. We also recently updated our water policy this past July to, you may remember a few years ago when the water crisis in Flint and everything hit, school committee came up with a policy around water policy. We have recently updated it as recently as July by a vote of the school committee, and the water policy that BPS adopted is being used as a model for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to use in other communities, so we'll make sure we get you that as well.
Thank you. And then just a follow-up on that. I know you're hiring 35 new staff from the custodial staff. Is it the custodial job to, to make sure that there's adequate paper towels and toilet paper in the bathrooms, or is that someone else's job?
No, our custodians do yeoman work around that effort. I want to give a big shout out to the custodians who work tirelessly on these issues in some of these huge school buildings, and who have great relationship with the kids and the staff. And so we work very closely. And again, just to give PJ a shout out, since he's been on board, has really done amazing work with our custodians in terms of their training and the work that they're doing. We've hired more managers, which PJ advocated for as a way to better manage the workflow with our custodians. And so we work very, very closely from an operations perspective. Myself and my team, Ellen McDonough, who was there with us, and others, when we get constituent complaints or if there are concerns, which arise, or when counselors come to our office on different issues, it's always the custodial team that jumps right on it, responds immediately. And if we identify that there are specific issues from an operation perspective moving forward, we work closely with PJ to make sure we address that, get those operational issues addressed, and then go forward from there. So,
yeah, thank you, Rob, and I just want to echo the tremendous work that the custodial staff do for the public schools. They're often not appreciated at times, but they do a tremendous job, and they play a critical role in the education of our children. The students have a good relationship with the custodial staff. The principal and the teachers do as well. So I think if it wasn't for the custodial professionalism of the custodial staff, it could be very challenging at many schools, but we're just so fortunate to have custodians that are very professional, dedicated, and love their job, and a great credit to the city of Boston. So I just wanted to pass that along to you.
thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. Councilor O'Malley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the great work you do. So we've had 27 projects either completed or in the pipeline since we've taken advantage of MSBA, and that's going back to about 2014, I'd assume. I think the first year of Mayor Walsh's mayoralty we began. So that's about, I went to BPS, so I know how to do math. It's about 4.5 projects per year that have gotten approved. So I guess my question is, of these 11, we always want to apply for more, knowing that if we don't get all of we likely won't get all of these this year. It'll likely be going to the next year. So how do we prioritize that? What sort of our most pressing needs are in terms of the boiler, roof, or the windows?
So that was part of the criteria leading up to these 11. BPS facilities team worked on defining which schools they felt were in most need and met the criteria of the accelerator repair program. So these 11 schools were put forward by the facilities teams that are in these buildings day in, day out and see the need.
Totally get it, and I mean, you can make the case, I guess, but it's unlikely all 11 will be funded this go-around. I think we can all agree.
I know that some of the projects that haven't been funded in the past from MSBA have moved over to the capital side of things.
I see.
So that we would move forward with the project independent of MSBA, knowing that there is this need to repair or replace one of these building systems.
That's interesting. So how, and I'm really, this is more of a process question than anything else, but I guess, can you confidently say that if these projects don't win MSBA funding approval for 2021, which is probably likely that they all will not, they will be reflected in the capital budget? Or, I mean, I know with the Curley School, for example, we had to apply several times before we got it, you know, on the list.
So 2 examples from last year, one was English High School and one was the Josiah Quincy Elementary School. Both were not, last year was MSBA didn't move forward any window projects. So
yeah.
All districts throughout the state of Massachusetts that applied for a window were not moved forward. Josiah Quincy Elementary School is now in the capital plan for windows and other work. There was some masonry issues that are going to be addressed, as well as a roof. And English High School was not in the capital plan last year, but I know that we're looking at that school to not only look at the windows, but other issues that may be.
Okay. So it's, I guess if there are 3 options here for these 11 schools, they'll either get funded, or we'll have to look at city funds to fulfill it, or we may reapply if they're not funded this round for future rounds. Okay, makes sense. And is there any reason to believe that the MSBA will not fund window projects this year?
We've asked, and they were non-committal.
Non-committal, okay. Well, more than half our projects are windows, so I hope they are.
Yeah, I hope they do too. I can't see them doing 2 years in a row with no windows.
Yeah.
The window projects are the most difficult for districts because the lead time associated with windows and the work usually carries into the school year. So you either have to get an early start or start right when school gets out and know that when you come back to school that there is going to be some disruption to your operations, as there'll still be a construction project ongoing.
And I'd argue window projects are probably the most expensive, or perhaps the roof projects with
Windows are
Windows
the
1,
most expensive.
roof 2, boiler 3. I'd assume just sort of, okay, good. And can you talk just briefly, because this is obviously a no-brainer for us, that's great, you know, we need to do this, and it's wonderful, particularly for my newer colleagues, to know that for many, many years, when former Councilor Consalvo served on the body with me, we never took advantage of MSBA. This is a relatively new concept that Boston is finally taking advantage of this funding mechanism, so obviously we all support it. But can you, any of you or all of you, talk briefly about how this prioritization lines up with the Build BPS plan and how we're sort of doing, you know, 2 different tracks, one looking at a holistic facilities audit and oversight with all of our buildings, as well as taking advantage of some revenue to address some of the short-term fix.
I can take that. So we've been working very collaboratively. Our facilities team has a seat on the Build BPS team. So these projects obviously represent things that need to be done more immediately. That can be done through the MSBA project. We are vetting them as to whether there are schools that we'd be making changes through our Build BPS process. And have identified that they will not, these are schools that we want to keep on board and reuse in some way, even if they were a part of a 2-campus solution. And then for our other projects as moving forward, as we're looking at what we're doing by neighborhood, for our facilities, we're looking at how that aligns to our K-6, 7, 12 planning and working with school leaders. So we're doing it side by side, it's aligned. And we're looking forward to having some more information on the other phases of the Build BPS work as we move forward.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thanks so much. I had just a few more questions on my end. So the Kotter School, which Councilor Flynn mentioned, that's in for the core projects?
Correct.
And then was the other one that you mentioned, the Josiah Quincy Upper School?
Yes.
Can you speak to that one and where that is in the process?
Sure. That's currently in design. We anticipate starting construction in the summer of 2021. The anticipated new building will be on where the modular, so Josiah Quincy Upper School is a 2-building campus. The modulars are adjacent to the elementary school on Washington Street. Where the modules sit in the city recently purchased, there's a church on the other end of that piece of property, the Boston Chinese Evangelical Church. And that parcel will make up the new the home for the Josiah Quincy Upper School. So 2021, we anticipate starting construction on that project with the 2024 opening of a new school.
Got it, with the 20. So the MSBA funds you're eligible for them for a building that isn't currently a school that you're gonna then make into a
Right, so
school?
they've been working with us. The original statement of interest or application was submitted for the existing upper school, and that's what they use as the approval. They agreed with us that a new school solution was the appropriate solution to the issues at that existing facility. The existing facility doesn't have a gym, the cap's in the basement, doesn't have breakout spaces for independent learning or some of the other spaces that needed for 21st century instruction. So we're going to be building a brand new school on that site where the modules sit.
Yeah, and I should say, that's not in my district, but the only elementary or middle school in my district is the Tobin and Mission Hill. So I take an interest in the schools around other districts that our students go to from District 8. I was wondering, I just wanted to circle back a little bit to Councilor Mejia's question about contracting. I mean, obviously, this is something that citywide we're all very concerned about, the question of the percentage of the work that we're doing, the public dollars we're putting into good projects, that, that there be equitable opportunity to access that. And I guess I'm curious, because obviously we have so many departments and things can be siloed, how your bidding and procurement folks communicate with the Office of Economic Development around their efforts there and sort of the extent to which that's all joined up.
Sure. I know recently the Public Facilities Department has been working closely with the Economic Development team and the people who work specifically on bringing more minority women-owned businesses into City of Boston projects. I believe Public Facilities is going to be part of a presentation in, I believe, March or April, working with Joshua McFadden to talk about how we can get more MWBE involvement in our projects as we move forward. And as with all of our projects, one of our kickoff meetings, we bring in the compliance office to make sure that all our contractors are aware of the percentages of residents, minorities, and women that are expected to be in their workforce on our projects.
Yeah, it strikes me that because there's something about these projects in particular that sort of has a routine element, because, right, it's roofs and windows and, my experience has been that one of the most difficult aspects of this challenge is forming a pipeline, right, of contractors and women and minority-owned businesses that are, like, ready to do the work, have the right insurance certs, all of that. And so when you have a pipeline of kind of predictable projects of a similar type, it's a very good opportunity to also create a pipeline of potential contractors. It's not something where you need a development team that can do a million different types of things. And so I think this strikes me as a particular opportunity for that kind of thinking.
Right, and it might be able to be something where we work with economic development so we all have an understanding of what's required for contractors to, in terms of insurance and all the sign-offs that are needed to perform this type of work with the City of Boston in advance of bidding on something.
And in terms of, this is maybe a little bit related to Councilor O'Malley's question, but we don't necessarily expect the MSBA to fund all 11 of these projects, although it would be great. How do we sort of decide, obviously we're trying to ask for the maximum support that they're willing to give us. How do we decide that the magic number is 11 in this instance? Or
every year we've differed in the number of applications that we've submitted to them. I think this year the new superintendent and working with the facilities team identified these 11 that they felt fit within the ARP requirements and thought that we have submitted upwards of 11 in the past, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and I think we got 6 approved. But I think we're trying to get as much collaboration with the MSBA as possible. So we're going to see what happens upon review. They visit every school They have a limited number of funds that are used for the accelerated repair program throughout the Commonwealth. So we'll have to see upon their review how they feel with the 11 submissions.
And I'll ask an East Boston question just because Councilor Edwards wasn't able to join us. The James Otis, I see we've already done a project there 2 years ago, and now we're coming back for another one. Is that something that we've had success with in the past, doing, like, asking for the same school a series of projects?
Yeah, we've had a couple of schools. We had the Sumner Elementary School in Rosendale. We had windows and a boiler project. The Curley School in Jamaica Plain, we had a window project, and we're going to be doing a roof with the MSBA as well.
Great, wonderful. One other question, somewhat related. I just noticed in the list of things that we're thinking about, the sort of historical significance of the schools doesn't seem to be in the mix here, and I was just wondering how you guys think about that and whether there's any inventory of kind of the historical resources in our schools.
We're actually working on a historical plan right now on all schools that were built before, I believe, 1950. Several of the schools that we moved forward with windows on in 2017 had some historical, whether it was the National Register or the Massachusetts Historic Commission had some involvement in those buildings, and we made sure with Boston Landmarks that the windows that we were putting in those buildings were approved were in line with what the Historic Commission was okay with.
And do you know, are any of the schools that we're considering today in that inventory?
There may be. I'm not sure off the top of my head. We will work with Boston Landmarks Commission to make sure that if any of these schools are identified as historic, that we'll work with if it's a neighborhood commission or Boston Landmarks themselves, that they'll have some review before we move forward with the approval of design of a window system.
Great. And when do you expect the inventory to be done?
We're expecting to be done in the coming months. We've had a consultant on for probably about 6 months now, working on gathering a lot of information of each independent school. They're analyzing to see if they're on a national historic database, if there's some state historical relevance to the building, and putting in place a process moving forward, how we address any building that's historically registered or in a historic district.
Great, thanks, yeah. I'm the historian on the council now, so
Great.
and it strikes me, the earlier you know about historical assets, the sooner we can think about how to protect them in ways that are in line with the needs of our 21st century schools and the needs of our students, and I always feel like it's good to have that on the
Right, and even if they're not historically registered, they may be impacting a historical adjacent building.
Right.
So it's very important for Public Facilities BPS to work with Boston Landmarks to understand how a future project may impact that neighborhood.
Thank you. Other councilors with further questions? Yes, Councilor Mejia.
And this is from someone who had to go, right? And haven't moved from the seat yet. So just two things. It's not so much of a question, just some suggestions in terms of outreach. I know you mentioned the Boston Globe, the Herald, so I would also include the Banner and other smaller publications in terms of getting the word out. I think that will help in terms of drawing in more bidders. And then the other piece, I know you had mentioned something around architects get involved in this process. Yep. So I would just offer that when you're working with these design companies, that they're also thinking about the pool of contractors that they can collaborate with on projects that are coming down the pipeline, so that we can ensure that we have a higher representation of minority business owners who are participating in this process. Just suggestions. And thank you for this. I'm looking forward to supporting.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Flynn?
Thank you, Council Bach. Brian, is the veteran-owned companies also part of the strategic outreach as part of the women-owned companies and minority-owned companies? Are we also including veteran-owned companies?
I believe it is. I'll get back to you and confirm with we have within public facilities, we do a lot of the contract work itself, and I'll confirm with that and get back to you.
Okay. Again, I just want to say thank you to all of you for your great work in what you're doing in the city of Boston, helping our students. Thank you.
Thanks, Counselor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. McLaughlin, and also Councilor Consalvo, and Monica. I think I said your last name wrong at the start of the hearing, so I just want to say Monica Roberts from the BPS as well. It's exciting, and I'm definitely planning to report it out tomorrow and ask the council to take a vote in the affirmative so that we can get these projects underway.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I'll take any public testimony now, if anyone's here to testify. Seeing none, this hearing is adjourned.